I feel only Indians do all jugaad.
Hey, Harsh. Can you hear me? That's odd. Ganavi, can you hear me? What about now? Can you hear me? Hey, Rush. Just to double check, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I do. All right.
Okay.
It's like Harsh is having some audio issues. Hmm. Hello. We're just waiting for everyone to connect. Everyone just to give a couple of minutes, and then I will present and introduce you to Harsh, right?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Hey.
Loud and clear.
Fine.
Don't worry.
Is my audio fine? Is it clear enough? Any disturbances?
It's perfect. Yeah.
Okay, great.
I want to ask you something first.
Mhm.
Did Will share with you an a survey to share with the fellows?
Okay.
He did it, or
Oh, yeah, I will not be sharing any survey.
Okay, great. All right, so let's wait a little bit more, just a couple minutes more, so everyone can join, and then I will introduce you. All right. So I see that you're a campus expert. So how has like the whole experience has been?
Oh, I have enjoyed myself. It's been good to sort of meet people, and the training was good. I like the training because it made me think of stuff. So I had been doing talks and all those workshops before becoming a campus expert and stuff like that. So that part of it was something that I had done before, but the other stuff, like think about the future of my community and just figuring out a what do you call it, code of conduct and things like that, I had not thought of. So thinking of the future of your community, how will you foolproof it in case you are not there and stuff like that. So those things were helpful. And yeah, just general insights on trying to be a leader, quote unquote. So yeah, those were good things to like think about. um, the training was good. Then I got to meet, so there were loads of events in India. I was back in India when last year. So I got to meet one pa and everyone there. So that was a good meeting place where I could sort of show a few of my projects and stuff, and I could get feedback from them. So that was fun. And yeah, but I've done, and yeah, GitHub also helped me out with like supporting hackathons and stuff that I organized. So that has also been good. So yeah, just been a good experience overall. So yeah.
Sounds great. Yeah, I have a couple of friends that are campus experts as well, and yeah, they had a great experience with it.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I like the program, and I'm going to be sad once it's over for me because I graduate, I think, in December. So yeah, I'll stay on as an
Great.
alumni.
Great. So I think we're time for starting. So and yeah, I think fellows might join a little bit later, right?
Sure, that's
Most
fine.
of them probably they will see the recording because they have
Mhm.
class or other things. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, thank you, Harsh, for coming. We're really glad to have you here on MLH. And yeah, Harsh is a GitHub Campus expert who will run us through this Git and GitHub fundamentals, which will help you with your orientation project, and it will help you a lot with your partner projects. All right. So yeah, I will leave it to you, Harsh. Thank you.
Yep, awesome. So, hey everyone, good to be here. So we're going to talk about Git and GitHub a bit, but so the thing that so how I'm going to gear this towards, I had a chat with Will, who's the manager of the program, and he told me that maybe people are aware of absolute basics of Git, so stuff like Git add, Git pull, Git push, um, Git status, and stuff like that. So I'm going to cover that in about say 10-15 minutes, and the rest of the session is mainly going to be about how do you sort of contribute, how do you open a pull request, how do you converse with people on issues and things like that. So essentially, how can you contribute to open source? That's going to be a meat of the session, and just a small part of the start is going to be about the basics of Git. So I would like to know if someone wants me to cover that in a bit more detail. Whoever is present at least right now. If not, I'll this is sort of the plan. So for 15 minutes or so for Git basics, and then mainly about GitHub, wherein we go through pull requests, make a pull requests, and stuff like that. So if you just let me know if you want me to cover the basics of Git in slightly more detail. Okay, I think there's one person who wants me to. That's fine.
Hi. So
Yeah, hi.
about the Git basics, what I
Yeah.
want to do is, uh, I know what staging committing does. I just want a little more information of why it is actually needed and why not directly commit.
Yeah, sure. Makes sense. I had the same question when I was learning it. Fair enough. I'll be stopping with questions as well, so let me know if anyone has any other questions. And but Ganavi, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that your name right, but do you know the commands though? You're fine with the
Yeah.
commands, right?
Yes, I know the commands. I just want to know the
Okay.
need of it.
Yeah, sure. Okay, fine. I'll cover that when that comes up. Okay, then I'll just if anyone wants to tell me about anything, feel free to interrupt me. But yeah, let's go. Right. So before we start with anything, just give me 2 minutes to just go over what is Git. All right. So what is Git? Git is a version control system. Why do we need it? Well, we need it because it helps us version our code. Why do we need to version our code? Right. So you can, let's say you made some change to your code, right? And you deployed it in production and the site broke, right? But you actually have users who are on the site who are trying to buy things, right? Let's assume you're Amazon, right? And people are on your website trying to buy products, and suddenly you made a change and the site goes down. You're going to lose so much money, right? Because people are not able to buy your products, right? So one way in which Git can help you is that you can go back to a previous version of your code, right? The version of your code before you made this new change, right? So you can go back to the version and deploy that particular version, right? So Git is a tool that will sort of help you, version controlling software, a tool that will sort of help you to maintain the versions of your code. And it helps you maintain these versions in different ways. So there are things like branching that you can do. I'll get into branching later on, don't worry. So Git will sort of help you ease your development process. It makes it more collaborative, right? We'll get into how it makes it collaborative and how many developers can work together on the same project and things like that. We'll get into that, so don't worry. But yeah, just know that Git helps you do all these things. It helps you version your software. That is like the main point of Git, right? Now then there's something called GitHub, right? So what is GitHub? So GitHub is a service, right, which uses Git internally and adds some UI and a good UI on top of it, and adds some more features that we get into today, issues, pull requests, and different things that we'll get into today. So the basic difference is Git is the tool which helps you version your code. GitHub is just a layer on top, just a layer on top, which is helping you do Git stuff plus adding a few more features on top of it, right? So Git and GitHub are not interchangeable. They are two different things, right? Git is the tool. GitHub is the service that provides some additional functionality. So I've seen a lot of people, and even I used to do this, use Git and GitHub interchangeably, but they are two different things, right? So just keep that in mind. So yeah, now we can so what are we going to cover today, right? So as I mentioned before, the first two, we talked about Git. Now we're going to get into the basics of Git and GitHub, which should take around 10 to 15 minutes. And after that, for the next 45 minutes or so, we'll be talking about branching, issues, and pull requests. And I'll show you a few examples, and I'll actually make a pull request as well. So yeah, let's go. I shall present my screen. Right. So when we get to GitHub and essentially using Git, so what do we sort of look at, right? So this is like this is the basics of Git. Where do things start? Things always start where we are working, right? Where we are developing our code in a normal directory, right? We have our folder in which we have our code files and everything. That is where we are making all our changes, all our files are saved there, etc. Right? So that is our working copy. That is our working directory. That is a folder in which we are actually working, right? So now Git has these two different things called staging area and local repository, right? I'm not getting into repositories and stuff because I'm assuming that you all know that. It's just a store for your code, right? So working copy is your working directory where you're doing your stuff. There's a staging area that Git adds. We'll get into why that is. And then there is a local repository, which you have on your machine. And then finally, once you're done with your stuff on your local repository, obviously once your change is ready on your local machine, let's say you want to add a new button to a website, right? So once that change is ready locally on your machine, you need to push that to the cloud, right? Somewhere in the cloud, right? A repository in the cloud where your code can actually get deployed for everyone to look at, right? So essentially, once code is ready on your local machine, you push your code, you send your code somewhere to another server, to another repository called remote repository, right? So this is the usual flow. Now to get to this flow, how does it work, right? So we are developing our code in our directory, which is the working copy, right? And then we need to send it to the staging area. Why, I'll let you know. And then from the staging area, we need to send it to a local repository, right? And from your local repository, you send it to your remote repository. Now, your goal is to send stuff to the remote repository. So you have to first send to the local repository, and then from there to the remote repository. Now, why to get to the local repository, why do you need to go through the staging area, right? So there's a reason for that. And the reason is essentially Git is powerful and smart, right? So what you can do, you can essentially say, because when we are usually developing something, we usually might develop a few different features together, or we might have 2 or 3 things going on at the same time. But for now, we just need this much of the code and stuff like that, right? So let's say you're developing a chatbot and a button, right? So essentially you have to add a button to a page, and you have to add a chatbot to the page as well, right? So now your manager tells you, hey, you can work on the chatbot later, but I need the button change immediately right now, right? So what you can do in the staging area, out of all the files that you have changed, so in your current directory, you will have files that are changed for your chatbot plus your button, right? So what you can do in your staging area, you can tell Git, okay, hey Git, out of all these files that you can see, just select these files, these few files that are required for the button change, and commit that to the local repository. Don't send everything to the local repository, right? So you can tell Git what to pick and choose. And Git is also that powerful that in one particular file, if there are 5 different changes that you've made to that file and they all don't belong to one sort of feature, you can tell Git, hey, in this particular file, out of the 5 changes in this file, just pick 2 of these particular changes and commit it, right? So staging area is essentially, as the name suggests, a area to stage your commit, to prepare your commit, right? It's an intermediate state where you can prepare what you want to commit to your local repository. So that is essentially why you have this staging area, right? So just to repeat, staging area is preparing your commits. You can tell Git which files you want to essentially commit, and you can also tell Git in one particular file which changes do you actually want to commit, right? You don't need to commit the entire file as well. So it's like a preparation area, right? So usually, so I hope whoever had that question that is answered. If not, just interrupt me. Right. So essentially, to get stuff from the working copy to the staging area, you do a git add, right? That's staging, git add. Then to get stuff from the staging area to the local repository, you do git commit, right? And to send stuff from your local repository to your remote repository, you do you push, right? Git push. Now, let's assume you have developer B who joins your team, right? And they have never worked on this project before. They have no clue what's going on, right? So so how do they get the code base, right? So they get the code base. So there's a command known as git clone, right? So you can essentially clone this entire repository and just get all the code that you have, right? So and then your manager might tell them, hey, I need to change the color of this button from red to green, right? That's your first task. So developer B will get to that, right? On their local machine, they will change the color of the button from red to green, right? And they have the change on their machine. So now again, they will add it, they will commit it, and then they will push it, right? So now we have new changes here, right? Where the originally red button is now green, right? But on our local machine, we don't have that change, right? We need the latest changes, right? So how do you do that? To get the latest change from the remote repository to our machine, to the local repository, you just do a pull, right? So yeah, so essentially that is the basic workflow, right? Add, commit, push. And if you don't have the code before, like you've never worked on the project before and you don't have the code, then you clone the entire repository. And if you just want to get the latest change, if you already have the code and you just need the latest changes, you just do a git pull, right? So this is essentially most of the basic commands that we usually use. There are 1 or 2 more that I'll show you when I demonstrate it. That's what we're going to do next. So yeah, till now, any questions, anyone? I'm just going to demonstrate whatever I showed right now, but any questions? And I think someone, Ganavi, does that answer your question on why the staging area is required?
Yeah, so I understood what the staging area does.
Mm-hmm.
So Okay, again, my question is why staging area? Why not just directly commit it and then push to the remote repo? Like,
You need to tell Git, right? You need to tell Git which files do you want to commit. You might not want to commit all the files.
okay.
So,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, so
Got it.
essentially, if you're developing two features at the same time, every commit is supposed to be an atomic change, right? So one version should be your button change, and the other version should be your chatbot, right? So you don't want to mix those two features together. But if you develop them together, how do you tell Git that, okay, I just want these subset of files to be committed in this commit? How do you tell Git that, right? So there is some preparation area that you want for that, right?
Okay, got it. Yeah, thank you.
Right. So you can also you can tell Git the which files, and you can also tell which parts in a particular file. So that's git add -p if you've ever encountered that.
Yeah,
Try that
got
out.
it.
It's very nice. I was very surprised when I got into it. But anyways, um, any other questions?
I have a question, but it's kind of related to PR. So do you want me to wait till later, or should I ask
Yeah,
it now?
that would be nice.
Okay.
Sure. Just ask me right now so that I know if I have to change some direction sometime. Just let me know what the question is.
Okay, so I've seen when I went to like review and merge PRs, it's given me multiple options. It's given me squash and merge and squash and rebase, and I have no idea what the difference is between
Okay,
those
I'll
are.
explain that when you get there. Fine.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, so now let me just quickly just demonstrate that to you, whatever git add, git commit, git and that stuff, and then we'll get to branching and that stuff, right? So now this is a directory. This is just a directory that I created for this particular demo. Just demonstrate what's up. There is literally nothing in this directory. It's an empty directory for now. So I'm just going to initialize a Git repository here. I created this .git directory. Explore this directory someday, by the way. It's the internals of Git are really fun. Anyways, so yeah, let's just create a random file. Let us add some content in there. Or wait, just right. We'll get into what that is. Don't worry, just it's some random text for now. Right. Right. So this is the content of the README file, right? Don't worry about what that means. We'll get into that later. Right. So now we have this particular file with us, but Git does not know about that. Right. So we are going to add this file from the working copy to the staging area. Right. That's what we're going to do. And how do you do that? You do that through git add. Right. Git add readme.md. You can ignore that warning. Right. So instead of it being a right question mark, Git now knows about it and it has been added, right? It's a green A. So right, our file is in the staging area. We now need to, actually I should show you another diagram. Yeah. So right, we were in the working directory right now. We just ran git add to add our file. Now we obviously need to commit the file to the local repository, right? How do you do that? We just do git commit, right? Right, so git commit -m, just adding a commit message saying initial commit main, right? What that is, I'll let you know, right? We just wrote some message, right? How do you check your commits? You just write git log, and hey, you see you have a commit with this particular message, right? Okay, so what do we do now? So yeah, I committed it, right? So now what is our next goal? So we need to send it to a remote repository. But to send it to a remote repository, the remote repository should actually exist, right? So let's just create a new repository. Right. So you can just go here, create a new repository. And okay, why is that taking so much time? Yeah. And we'll just name this anything. Let's name it MLH 2023, right? Public repository, image-bot, fine. I'm just going to create a repository. Right now, how do we? So now we have stuff in our local repository. We have a remote repository, but when we run git push, we actually need our local Git client to know where to push to, right? So we just need to add a link, tell our local Git client that, hey, when I run git push, I am actually meaning this repository, right? So git remote add origin. I paste the link, not git, right? So what did I do right now? I just right, I just told it, hey, whenever I use this word origin, it's like an alias. It's a in programming analogy, it's like a variable name for this particular value, right? So in Git jargon, it's called an alias, right? So whenever I'm essentially telling it, hey, whenever I mention origin, I'm actually pointing to this particular repository, right? So I'm just going to say git push origin main, right? So I'm telling, okay, I need to set upstream, right? So I'm just saying git, please push to this upstream repository, right? And which branch, the main branch, we can ignore this for now. I'll get into branches later on. So just ignore this for now. So I'm essentially telling it, please push it to this particular repository. So it should go here, right? Let's try pushing. Okay, let's refresh this. Hey, we have our file on GitHub, right? So this was just pushing. Now let's say we make some change over here, right? On someone else pushes code to your repository or whatever. So I'm just going to make a change, right? And I'm just going to commit it on GitHub. Yeah, let's go with that. Right. So on GitHub, we now have this line here. But if we check our local thing, we only have this one, this stuff. It's not up to date, right? And if we check git log, we just have one commit, right? Whereas if we see here, there are two commits, right? The initial commit on main and the update commit, right? So we need the latest changes. How do you get the latest changes? We run git pull, right? Okay, if it types. What? Okay, seems my terminal has hung. Sorry for that. Okay, so right. So I just have one commit. I need latest changes. So what do? I just run git pull origin main, right? So I'm just saying, hey git, please pull from this particular repository. And git is like, okay, sure. So now if we check the number of commits we have, hey, we have initial commit, and now we have also readme, right? The update. Now let us actually check the content of the file. Yep, we do have the new change, right? So what do we do now? Now we are going to get into branching. Before that, does anyone have any doubts? Or did anyone not understand something, or do you want me to repeat something for you? Was that too fast? Okay. Just interrupt me if you need anything. Great. Now we'll get into branching, right? So what are branches? What are we doing, right? Right. I need to open. I'm sorry, I should have kept the site ready. Right. So what branches are sort of allowing you to do is essentially you can create a copy of your code at any particular version. You can create a copy of your code and start working on that on the side, right? And you don't need to interfere with what is going on at a particular branch, right? So what do I mean by that, right? Let's take a sample scenario. Let's say this main branch here, or master, whatever you want to call it. Let's say this is the branch that is actually deployed. This is the version of code that's actually deployed to your customers right now, right? But you want to develop that chatbot and whatever you want to do, right? But you don't want that. You don't want it to interfere with the production code, right? So essentially, whatever code exists on this particular branch or this particular version of your code is what users can see, right? So if there is another version, another commit on this particular branch, then it will automatically be deployed to your users. But you don't want to do that when you are developing a new feature, right? When you're adding a chatbot to the site, you don't want it to be visible to the users till you're finished developing, finished testing, everything, all quality checks, everything is done, right? You only want it to be visible once those quality checks are done, right? So essentially what Git allows you to do is it will allow you to create a copy of any version that you wish, right, of your code. And then you can develop your code on the side. And once you're done with developing your code, you can just merge it back, right? You can literally just merge it back into this particular branch, and it'll be, you'll have new code which is tried, tested, and everything, right? And whatever commits you had made here and all that, it won't affect the production code. Only once you merge this code back into the main branch will you ever have to worry about it being seen by your users, right? So, and what you can also do, let's say if you had, you can also create a branch from a branch, right? And you can keep doing that. You can keep doing that as much as you want, a branch from a branch from a branch from a branch, right? So you can keep doing that, right? So if this is your main branch, which your users can see your final production quality code, production level code, this is where you sort of develop your features. And let's say you wanted to add something more to that, or some other developer wanted to join you and work, they can, so that your code is not affected, they can take a copy of that code, work on some particular small change. Let's say you have a big chatbot and they realize, oh, this particular UI element here is not that great. Let me make this small change in this new chatbot that you are creating, right? So they can create a copy of their code, make whatever changes they want, and then they can just merge it back to your code, right? And finally, once it's tested and everything is done, you can merge your code back into the main branch, right? So that is essentially how branching works, and why it is so important, and why it is so helpful, and how it makes collaboration so much more easier, right? Because you can just develop on your own without interfering with someone else's work, right? So I hope that clears up what branches are. If anyone has anything to add or any questions, just let me know. Give me a moment. Right. So that covers up branches, just the theory part. Obviously, I'll demonstrate it, but that's all you sort of need to know for now about branches. Right. So right now, by default, Git creates a branch. Right. Now there might be many mains that this default branch might have. Right. So the command to check your branches is git branch. Right. For now, I just have one branch and it's called main, right? So by default, my Git client, whenever I create a repository, it creates a default branch called main, right? So you can change that name as well. You can just do git config. And if I show you mine, here. So if you see when I'm doing git init, so it's like settings for init, my default branch name is always main. You can set this to whatever you want, right? And then whenever you create a new repository to git init, it will create this, create a default branch with the name main, right? So for us, we are right now in this particular repository, we are in the main branch, right? Let's say we wanted to make some other change or do something very different. Let's say we needed to create a new branch, right? So how do we do that? We just run git branch, and let's give it a name, br-1, right? Why not? Right. So I created a new branch, right? But if I check which branch I'm currently on, I am still on the main branch, right? If you see the star, and obviously you can see it here as well, which is why I'm using git bash. We are still on the main branch. So how do you actually go to that branch, right? So there's a new command called git switch br-1, right? Now if we check git branch, okay, we are on br1, and obviously it changed here as well, right? So we are on br1, right? So now we have the same README file over here, right? And what is in that README file? We have these two lines, right? Now let's say I want to remove all of this and write a complete new line. So let's do that. Let's add some new content. This is the what is it? BR1, yeah. BR1 branch, right? Let's put that in the README file. Right. So now what does our README file have? This is the BR1 branch, right? So obviously, and if we run git status, we see that git is like, okay, it's modified. I don't know what to do with it. So yeah, it's not in the staging area right now. It's just in the working directory. Git is just informing me that, hey, the current copy that I have in my commit tree, that does not match the current version of this document. And I do not know, it's not added with me, right? So I just need to run git add to add that to the staging area, right? We can ignore the warning. And now Git is like, okay, it's the version of the file that currently exists in your working directory. It's not the same as what exists in the commit tree that I have, which is why it's showing us M that's modified, but it's green now rather than a red M, which essentially tells us that, okay, Git is aware of this change now. And and I have chosen this particular file to be added whenever I run git commit, right? So essentially, if you run git commit now, it will be like, okay, I'm going to add this to the new commit that I'm going to create, right? So I just say, adding a message, right? Oh my God, I need to escape this. Anyways, you can ignore whatever I did right now. Yeah, git, just to see what we did. If you see now, we have 3 commits, right? Why? Oh God, I still misspelled it. Nice. But yeah. Yeah. Sebastian, maybe you want to mute them?
Yeah, give me a second.
Yeah, take your time. Right, so I'll just continue. Yeah, so essentially what we have right now is we have an initial commit, we have the update that we made in our main branch, right? So now that we've created a copy of this branch, we have the entire history of that branch with us, but we also added a new commit here, a new change, right? Which was the new content in the README file, right? So we have these 3 commits, right? Now, what do we need to do? We need to push that to a remote repository, right? Because if we check on GitHub, we just have one branch for now, right? We don't have multiple branches. We just have our main branch here, right? So what we can do is we can just say, hey, Git, I want you to, I wanted to push it to origin, which is our repository. But instead of main that we previously used, I want you to push it to the BR1 branch. Now, BR1 does not exist here, I know, but whenever you tell Git to do this and it sees that there is no BR1 branch, it will automatically create it for us, right? So GitHub will automatically create a BR1 branch. So we just need to push, right? So let's see what happens. Right. Now, if you refresh this, you can see that GitHub detected that there was a push to BR1 and we have a BR1 branch, right? And if you check the BR1 branch, the content of the README file is now BR1, and obviously on the main branch it is the main branch, right, content, right? So you have done this change, etc., etc. Now you sort of want to merge this back, right? So if suppose we wanted to get what exists in the README file on this branch, now we wanted to get it to the main branch, how do we do that, right? That concept is known as merging, right? So essentially, as I told you before, once we are finished with whatever we are developing on the side in the new branch, we can just merge it back into our original branch so that we can actually deploy it or merge it into the actual code base or the final version of your code base, right? The final production quality code, right? So, and the process of taking a copy is called branching and just working on it. And then the process of sort of getting it back to where it was or into another branch or any other branch is called merging, right? So how do we merge things back? right? So we go to the branch where we want it to go. So I want code to go from the BR1 branch to the main branch, right? So we are going to switch to the main branch, right? Git switch. So let me just show you. We are in the BR1 branch right now. I'm just going to say git switch main. Oops, I did not add the command, right? Git switch main, right? And we are on the main branch now instead of the BR1 branch, right? So I'm in the main branch and I want to merge BR1 into the main branch, right? So that's why I went to the main branch and I'm going to say, okay, I'm in the main branch currently and I want Git to merge whatever is there in the BR1 branch. I wanted to merge it to the main branch, right? So how do we do that? We're just going to run git merge BR1, right? So Git was like, okay, great, I'll do that for you. Now if we check, let's check what do you call it, git log, right? So now if we see git log, we can see that our main branch and our BR1 branch are both at the same location, right? So that means our README file should have this is BR1 branch in it, right, on the main branch. So let's just see what it has. Yep, we finally have this is the BR1 branch in the main branch, right? So we got whatever existed in the BR1 branch, we got that into the main branch, right? And obviously this change does not exist on GitHub, obviously, right? If we go to the main branch, obviously we still have the previous change, right? So what are we going to do? We are just going to push this again, right? Just, hey, git please push it to origin main, right? So we merged it here and we're just pushing that. We refresh this and voila, in the main branch, right? In the main branch, we have this file, right? We merged our changes, right? So this is the basics of branching and merging. And why did I get into this? Because to make a pull request, you require branching, right? That's a part of that. So that's why you got into branching and merging. So if you've not understood branching and merging, please let me know because that will be required later on. So anyone, any confusion, anything that you did not understand?
Hi.
Hi, yeah, tell me.
Yeah. So what's the difference between just git push and git push origin main?
Right. So there is, it's not a big difference. It's essentially, for the first time, you have to mention git push origin main because Git does not know anything you've done before when you're doing it the first time. But after that, Git realizes whichever branch you are on. If you just do git push, it'll automatically pick up whichever branch you are on. And if you just have origin on your like origin set on your Git client, it'll just push to that particular branch. So whichever branch you are on, if you just run git push, it'll push to that particular branch. We can try it out right now. Just if you're getting confused, I'll just say we are on the main branch right now, as you can see here. So so I'm just going to run create a new file, abc.text, right? I'm going to add it. I'm going to add abc.txt, right? Now I'm just going to run git push. Let's see if that works. That should. Right. So what? Yeah. So we got abc.txt in the main branch, right? So essentially, whichever branch you're on, the first time I had to run git push -u origin main whatever, I had to do that. But after that, whichever branch you are on, Git will automatically use that branch and push it to that particular branch, right? So it automatically realized that, okay, there is just origin exists here. So I have to push it to origin, which is this particular repository. Which branch? So the user is currently on branch main. So, well, let's push it to main on GitHub. Got it?
So if we are on main branch and if you want to push the BR branch, so that time we do git push origin and the branch, that's BR branch.
So you usually switch to BR1 and then push from BR1. To be honest with you, I've not tried pushing another branch when you're in a different branch. Whenever I need to push, I usually So if I wanted to push from the BR branch, I would just git switch into BR1, and then I would run the git push command here for whatever changes I wanted to push.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
No problem. Right. Anyone, anything else? Awesome. Okay. So what we can do now is, right. So now we get into the main part of this talk, the meat of this talk, which is essentially about contributing, right? So our goal today is, so we have this particular site, right, from a community that we have talks and stuff, right? So what we are going to do, so let's just go to one of the talks /1, right? So what we're going to do, we are going to add talk number 0, right, just as a demo, right? So, and I'm going to show you the entire process of just making it a proper pull request and reviewing it and all of that stuff, right? So our goal today is to add 0.html here, and that should be a new talk, right? So that is what the goal is for today. But before that, we'll just understand how this entire process works and how do you go about contributing to a new project or whatever project you're a part of or whatever, right? What is good etiquette, right? So there's something on GitHub for every repository that you go to. Yeah. So for every repository that you go to, there will be an issue section, right? So if you go to the issues section, we usually have issues like these. What is issues used for? As the name suggests, you can raise an issue, right? If you're having a problem with the repository, if you want to if you want to say that, hey, this particular feature would be a nice thing to have, or you could just suggest saying, hey, this particular thing that you have, I really don't like it because it is causing me these particular issues. So you can just bring out any technical issues or any new features you want and stuff like that. You can do that over here, right? If you want to see a more active repository, like how it actually looks on lots of repositories, I can show you another repository. So this is a bit more active, right? Where you can see, hey, someone is asking for something should be better, right? So an enhancement, or someone can say, hey, this particular video element on your page is overflowing. So that's a bug where there's an issue being caused. So there's a bug, right, that's being caused. So different kinds of things that you can sort of look into, and different ideas if you have. So someone in our team had an idea saying, hey, we can add a button to our summary pages or whatever to make it better or something like that, right? Add a particular button to a particular page, right? Someone had an idea, so they opened an issue for that idea, right? So there are two things you can do. You can either someone from the team will already have issues listed there saying, hey, these are features that we want, just to remind us, or if anyone else wants to contribute. Or you can also go and raise an issue saying, okay, but some particular thing is not working, or you want some particular feature, right? So I'm going to show you examples of both right now, right? So let's take an example where some contributor who is not a part of this project, nowhere related to any of this or whatever, comes to our project, goes to the issue section and says, okay, I want, so this was the reason that they gave, saying, as this website is about Git and GitHub, I think there should be, so the contributor thinks that there should be a section about open source programs, right? So I was like, okay, that makes sense. So what do you propose to add to this section, right? So essentially, this is where if you want to contribute and you want to propose something, you can go and propose something here, right? And then we can have a discussion on, okay, what do you want to add, etc., which programs, etc., and we can keep talking about that. And once we decide something, we can finally go and raise a pull request to raise a pull request. Now, what that does, we'll get in that. But essentially, you can go and propose some particular feature or thing that you want to add, right? Or what can be the case is that so this particular user is a part of our community, right? So he's a part of the team that manages the community. So he had a particular idea saying, oh, there's a button that can be added at a particular place, and that would be a good idea. So I genuinely like the idea. So okay, it makes sense, right? We'll work on it sometime. It was not high priority for us, but it was a good idea. So we just raised an issue and left it. So now this random person, and this was in March, right? and some random person who we've never talked to or we don't know about just landed on this repository saying, hey, I want to work on this issue that exists, right? So and they ask for some clarification saying, hey, I want to contribute to this repository and I want to add this particular button that you want, but I have some questions. What do I do with these things? So then you go about and answer those questions, and we can have a discussion based on that, saying, hey, then I told her, okay, if you see what, just send me a screenshot of how you want it to look or what is your idea and stuff like that. So we just have a conversation based on that, right? And so this is essentially issues for you, right? So so also a good thing to look at, if you just go to the issues section, if you'll usually find such labels here, right? Enhancement, good first issue, summary, documentation, etc., etc., whatever. So obviously when you're new to the project, to make it easier to be able to contribute, some maintainers, some projects usually have these good first issues or first timers only issues, right? So those issues are generally easy and are usually used for people who want to keep contributing more. Just if you want to get started with this project, this is a good easy issue that you can sort of work on, right? So look for good first issues and first timers only issues when you're starting out with the project, right? These labels are helpful, really helpful. Right. So now that we have this issue and you want to, so you expressed your liking, your willingness to work on this issue, and you asked clarification questions and everything. Now you said, okay, I have all the context I need for this. I know how to make the change. I know what change to make. Now you actually want to contribute the change, right? You made the change locally. Now you actually want to contribute the change. So what do you do to actually contribute the change? You open a pull request. What is a pull request? Essentially, with every pull request, you're saying, hey, maintainer of this repository, please pull my change into your actual code base, right? So essentially what this person did, so after talking for a bit, wait, what? Yeah, so after talking for a bit, we just, where is that? Right. So after lots of clarification stuff, and we just said, hey, please feel free to open a PR at this point, right? The UI looks great. Whatever changes we wanted, it looks great, and we've decided now feel free to open a PR, right? So so then that person opened a pull request, and they said, okay, I'm going to change. These are the changes. These are additions. The green denotes addition. So these are the additions they made to this particular code base that we already have, right? So these are additions they made, and they were like, okay, so this is what I propose the code addition to my to your project. Please pull this into your project, right? So they proposed that, and they added these comments for that, right? So now someone is reviewing the pull request, right? So now what do you mean by review? Now us as part of this project, who are part of this community, want to review the changes and want to see if we require any changes, right? So one of my team members approved the pull request saying, hey, I think this makes sense and we can merge it, right? So they approved it. Then I was reviewing the PR, and I was like, maybe we should make these 3-4 changes, and I suggested these changes, right? So I was like, hey, we don't need this particular section because we're already adding a particular section at the end, right? So I suggested a few changes and requested changes from that person, right? So what she did, that this person who was contributing, they made the changes that I requested them. Then once the changes were done, I approved those changes saying, hey, looks good to me now, and we can merge this, right? So obviously we just need to do a few more things before finally merging this. But once we're done with that, I'm just going to hit this particular button, right? Now, someone was asking me, what are these options, right? We'll get into that in a bit. But yeah, so essentially, once we are satisfied with this pull request, we are just going to go and merge this, right? In a similar fashion, when you have a particular right, so when someone else also suggests a particular what do you call it, feature, we have the same thing where they open a pull request for that feature, saying, okay, this is the content that I added to your this is how it looks, this is how the UI looks, the changes that I made in code, if it loads, yeah, are these particular, this is the entire change that I made to your, I add some pictures, etc., etc., some changes, right? Again, so they made these contributions, and again we had a discussion on how we want them to do it, etc., etc. There's a constant back and forth, right? So it was a very long back and forth in this case, right? But again, point is that everyone wants you to be able to contribute, right? They want you to be, it's a very inclusive environment where you're not getting judged, right, for any mistakes or whatever, right? So it's completely fine. Don't worry about making mistakes and all that. It's all rectifiable, and everyone understands that you're a new contributor and nobody's going to judge you. So that's completely fine. And as you can see, how many messages were exchanged throughout this entire contribution, which could have easily be done in say 30 minutes by someone else. It's fine, right? Everyone wants to help you, so don't worry about that. It's more about whether you actually are contributing or not, whether you're putting in the effort to do it or not, right? It's more about that, right? You don't have to get it right, or you don't have to um, um, you can't know everything about the project, right? So there will be some changes. That's completely fine, right? So these are two sort of ways in which you usually use issues and raise pull requests once those are done, right? It is usually discouraged to directly make a pull request. You can do that, but it's usually discouraged because essentially you first want to inform the people behind that project saying, hey, I want to work on this. Is this something you're looking for? Because sometimes you make a change directly without telling people, and you put in the effort to actually code it out and do everything. And at the end, once you make the pull request, the maintainer will, the repository maintainer will tell you, hey, thank you for the change, but we were actually just going to scrap this particular issue. We do not really want this. So all your effort is down the drain, and it's just not, it's a loss for both ends, right? Because they want you to contribute as well, but they didn't want you to contribute this particular thing, right? So maybe if you would have raised an issue saying, hey, I'm going to make this change, is this okay? And if the maintainer would just comment that, hey, we are not going to do this, but we have other issues that you can work on, right? These are the similar ideas that you can work on, right? So that saves time for both of them, right? So yeah, try to raise an issue before directly raising a pull request. Usually that is how things work, right? Okay, now how do you actually make a pull request, right? So we are going to use docs repository, and we are just going to add 0.html here. That is our change, right? We're going to add talk number 0. How do we do that, right? So this is a project that you want to contribute to, right? Okay, before we get into actually doing it, any questions, anything that you want to clarify? Anyone? Let me know. Right. So how do we actually go and contribute, right? So if we want to contribute to this project, but we don't essentially have the code for this ever, or we've never worked on it, what's going on? I have no clue. You are not a part of this organization called Our Tech Community, right? It's all new, right? So what are we going to do, right? So you need a copy of this code on your account, right? Because right now it's Our Tech Community's repository. You wanted to make it your own repository, right? So let's see what happens. Let's fork it, right? So when we fork it, what we are doing essentially, we are so essentially what we're doing is we are making copy of that particular repository into our account, right? So now instead of it being Our Tech Community /docs, it's now a part of my account, right? It's a copy, right? I forked it from the original repository. Right. Now, why do I need to do that? Because I don't have access to push access or whatever to Our Tech Community, right? Imagine if I could push directly to React, right? To the React repository, but I don't have access, right? So if we go to React, right? So I don't have access to the React repository, right? I can't just make changes or whatever. So if I want to propose changes or make any changes in this code, want to propose changes, I actually need a copy of this code first, right? So that's where I would fork this repository. So that's exactly what I did here as well, right? So I now have a copy of this repository with my account, right? Now what I want to do is I want to like work on this, right? So I need to clone this, make whatever change I want and stuff like that, right? So I'm going to copy this URL, right? What I'm going to do is um, What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to get this clone this repository, right? Why do I need to clone and not pull? I'm not pulling this because I don't have a repository, right? I don't have this particular repository on my machine. So I need to get this repository on my machine, right? So I can just run git clone. I'll paste the URL to that repository and I just write .git, right? So that clones it into a directory called tox1, right? So I'll just cd in tox1. Right, so now I'm in tox1 and by default I'm in the main branch, right? So if I just run git branch to show you what's up, right? We only have one branch, which is the main branch, right? So what do we need to do now? We need to add 0.html here, right? That's our pull request that we want to make, right? That's the change we want to add, right? So what do we do now? We will create a new branch, right? Why? I'll explain in a bit. Just bear with me. Let's name it add talk 0, right? I just made the branch and I need to switch to it. Right. So I'm now in the add talk 0 branch, right? Currently, I don't have 0.html, obviously, right? So I'm just going to create 0.html. What am I going to do? I'm just going to copy 1.html and copy it again, right? Then I'm just going to edit 0.html to edit a bit. Bear with me. I need to find the H1. Here you are. Okay. So sorry. Is it 0? Right. So I have just changed this from 1 to 0. Right. That's the only change I made. I'm just going to quit that. And yeah, right. Now if we do ls-a, right. So now we have this 0.html, right? So till now, just to remind you what I've done, I forked the repository, right? From our tech community /talks, I just forked it to my own repository, to my own account, right? Harsh Kapadia 2/talks1, right? Then what I did, I cloned this repository because I never had the code for this on my local machine. So I just cloned this repository. So I have and then in my local repository, what I did, I just switched branch. I just created a new branch for the new change. Why I created the branch, we'll get into later. But I just created a new branch and I switched to that particular new branch. And in that new branch, I just made whatever changes that I wanted to make. I just added a new file, right? Okay, so that's what I did. Now, right. So now what am I going to do? If we check git status, we see that we created this new file that git is not aware about. That's why it's question marks, right? So we need to, obviously it's in the working directory, so we need to add it. Oops, my bad. Right, so I just need to add it. I just say git add 0.html, right? If I run git status, it's added, right? So what do I need to do now? I just need to commit. Right? So I just added a message, right, saying added 0 talk for the MLH demo, right? So what do I do? Yeah, so now we just check git log again, obviously. And we have loads of commits before this, but right now we just added the newest one that we added, right, is add 0 talk, right? And obviously it's in the add talk 0 branch, right? So now what we're going to do, because if we go here, we only have one branch, the main branch, right? So what we are going to do is we are going to push it to our repository here, right? Because we want to create a new branch from where we can actually raise a pull request, right? So let's do git commit. Oh, sorry, we already committed. We just need to push it. Git push origin, right? And we need to, which branch do we need to push it to? We need to push it to the add talk 0 branch. It doesn't exist right now but we are just going to create a branch by just specifying the name of the branch, right? So I'm just going to say git push origin, right? And branch name, hit enter. And as per usual, there's a new branch that has been created, right? If we see here, @talk 0, right? So here in the main branch, we don't have 0.html. So when we go to the @talk branch, obviously, we have the 0.html file here, right? So now that we are on this branch, so just to recap what we've done again, sorry for the repetition, but it helps. We, from our tech community /talks, we forked it, right? After forking, we created we cloned it, right, to my local machine, right? And after cloning it, we created a new branch called @talk 0, switched to the new branch, made whatever changes that we wanted to make, right? And then we just added that, committed it, and then pushed it to this new branch on our forked repository, right? So our forked repository, Harsh Kapadia 2/talks, has this particular branch which has the change that we want. Now we just need to make a pull request, right? So we are going to make a pull request against our tech community /talks, right? So compare and pull request. And right, so what are we doing from our repository and from the @talk 0 branch? We are going to make a commit to our tech community, right? The talks repository there, right? So we are just going to say, okay, hey, and by the way, this is the change that we made. You can just view it here in case you want to, and you can just say, okay, let's create a pull request. Great. So now we have a pull request here, right? Because I'm a part of this organization, that's why I can see this option, but you won't be able to see this option, obviously, right? Right. So this is essentially, we have raised a pull request successfully, yay, right? So, and this is the change that we made. We just changed one file, 0.html, right? That's the change, right? Now, for example, if a maintainer comes and says that, okay, you changed the what do you call it? Where is it gone? Right, you changed this title here, which is the main title of the page. You changed it to 0, but you did not change the title tag of the page, for example, let's say, right? So I need you to change this particular thing. So what would the maintainer do? Now I'm switching roles to a maintainer's perspective, right? So the maintainer would tell you, okay, please change this to 0, right? Because it's 1, we need to make it 0, right? So they would, what would they do? They would start a review, right? They would say, hey, for this particular line, I need you to make this 0, it won't work, right? And then you would finish your review, and right, and oh so yeah, right. So then I would, if you can see this here, this button, I would just say request changes, right? I can't do that right now because I am I can't request changes on my own pull request. But yeah, you would essentially click on request changes here, right? And that would appear like this. Okay, where is the pull request? Sorry, my bad. And once I right, so once I click on request changes here, it would appear like this, saying this would be the top comment, like this would be this particular thing, and this please changes to 0 would appear like this, right? Saying this is not required, whatever, right? So it would appear that way. Okay. Obviously, I can't do that right now. I'm sorry for that. Right. So let's assume that someone has requested changes, right? So we are just going to make a new change here, right? How do we make a new change now, right? So what do we want to do on that same @talk branch? If you see here from Harsh Kapadia 2/@talk, we've made a pull request here. So on this same @talk branch on our local machine, we just need to make changes here. So any changes to this branch will automatically reflect over here, right? We'll try that out. Let's see. Don't worry if you're confused. I'll demonstrate it right now, right? So we are currently on the @talk 0 branch, right? So what we essentially have to do now is we've been told to change a particular thing. So we are just going to do that. And you can use any editor for this. Vim is just slightly quicker, so I'm doing that. Okay, found it. Right, so we need to change this title as per what project maintainer told me. I need to replace this with 0, right? So I'm just going to save that, right? So we made the change that project maintainer told us to. Now, obviously, Git will be telling us it's modified, so we need to add 0.html, and then Git finally knows about it. We added the file, right? Then we just commit it. Right? And obviously we've committed it now, so git log will show that, right? So as you can see, this was the addition of the talk, and now we are changing the talk title, right? So I'm just going to push it now again, because I've already pushed once before with the name. I can just run git push and it'll, yeah. So see, if it does not have that context, then it will just error out and tell me that, hey, please set your upstream explicitly. So yeah, we need to do that. Git push -u. -u is a short for set upstream, origin, and which branch at talk 0, right? So if you don't worry, if Git does not know what to do when you run git push, it will tell you. So don't worry about it. Right. Now, if we see, automatically it's visible here, right? So even if we go and see our repository, right? So even if we see this repository, where is, and if you go to add talk 0, see, there was a new push here, right? So there are 2 commits here, and that automatically reflected here. So any changes to the add talk 0 branch in your fork will automatically reflect on this pull request here. Okay. Anyone, any doubts? Okay. Feel free to interrupt me. That's fine. So yeah, so let's assume here the developer asked us to make some changes. Then we actually made the change here, and then the maintainer will actually approve it, right? Again, it would look like, okay, not this one, right? Yeah, it was this one. My bad. Yeah, then the maintainer would finally approve this, right? Like this. And then once that is approved, someone from the team would finally merge your pull request, right? Now, when we get to merging, I am able to you will not be able to merge because you're not a part of the project, but I am part of this community. That's why I have this option, right? So when you try to merge, there are 3 options to merge, right? This is a normal merge, right? Where when you merge, when 2 branches merge, it will create a new version of that. Or you can squash and merge, saying, okay, these 2 changes, instead of it appearing as okay, in a normal merge, when you do a normal merge, what happens is that both of these commits would be visible, right, in the final branch. Let me just show that to you. Right. So if you do a normal merge, you would be able to see, like, it's not a merge, sorry, when you're merging a pull request, not a normal merge. When you're merging a pull request, if you do a normal merge in a pull request, you would be able to see both of these commits that we made, right? But if you do squash and merge, what happens is that whatever changes you made are all squashed into one commit, and only one commit is visible in the final history, right? So I'm going to do a squash and merge to show you how it looks like. But just know that if I did a normal create merge commit thing, then as you can see the description here, all commits from this branch would be added to the base branch, right? So both of these commits would be visible here. So any intermediate changes that you made that are actually should not really be visible on the production branch, they would be visible, right? A lot of times, most of the times, you don't want all of the versions to be visible on the production branch, but you just want the final version, right? Because while developing, you might have certain versions, like say this version, which is incomplete, right? There is some change that has not been made here, right? And this is actually the final version. So you only actually want the change like this, you only want the final version to be seen, right? On the production branch, on the development branch, anything can happen, that's completely fine. But on the final production code, you don't want multiple incomplete commits to be there for the same feature, right? You just want one commit to be there, which is which has that particular feature. So if someone says, okay, the chatbot is the issue, you know exactly, okay, this was the comment that introduced the chatbot, and no comments before or after that are related to the chatbot. This is the one commit, right? So you can, it makes it easier to pinpoint that commit, right? So that is your that is the squash and merge. That is what it does it. So as you can see, the two commits from this branch will be combined into one commit in the base branch, right? So it'll just merge all the changes into one commit, right? So I am not really aware of the oh my god, I am really not aware of the what the third option does, because I've not used it. So if anyone else has any idea, please let me know. But yeah, I hope so. These are the two most common things that are usually done. So whoever had that question, did that answer your question?
Kind of, yeah. I've never used 3.S either, so I have no idea what it was. But yeah, it definitely helped.
Yeah, I have not used that as well, so I'm not really aware. I'm sorry for that. But wait, where did it go? Yeah. Okay, not this one. Nope, do not merge the wrong one, Harsh. Yeah. So yeah, those are the two main ways in which people usually merge things. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to squash and merge. I don't want my history to have. So essentially, what we're going to see after we merge it, instead of I don't want to see 20. So we have 26 commits right now, right? As you can see here. So I just want to see 27 commits. I just want to see one more commit added after we pull. I don't want to see 28 commits, right? Because I want every change to be atomics, right? So we are just going to see one commit added here instead of two, right? So let's just see that. I'm just going to squash and merge, right? Squash and merge. Woohoo, merged, right? So if we refresh this now, hey, we have our zero talk here, right? And we can't see two commits, we can just see one commit, right? And if we go and see here, the title has also been changed to 0, and so has the h1 been changed to 0, right? So we had made two changes, both are visible in the same commit, right? So it essentially combined it. One more thing to note, I don't. Okay, fine. Right. So now when we did that, when we actually merged it, right? When the pull request was merged, right? An automatic action also ran, right? So this, so it is actually deploying the page, right? So it built out whatever changes I made. It built it out and stuff locally, and now it is actually deploying it, right? So we'll just wait for it to finish deploying it to GitHub Pages, and then we'll actually be able to see it, right? So it's completed now. It should take a minute or two. Let's see. Let's see if you're able to actually access it. 0. Hey, we have talk 0 here, right? And we can see talk 0 here. This was the first change, and the second change we made was right here on the URL, like the title of the page on in the browser, right? That's 0 instead of 1. So yeah, this will be talk 1, and this is talk 0, right? So yep, we made a pull request, we merged it, and it's actually visible as well, right? So yeah, that was a basic pull request. It can get more complicated where you can have branches over branches and stuff like that, but we'll not get into that now. You'll figure it out once. And those complicated use cases, to be honest, are not really, don't really happen that frequently. It's usually pretty linear in most cases. So yeah, I think we'll leave it at that. If you want me to talk about anything else, or if you have any other doubts in general about Git and GitHub, I'm open to it. Let me know. If you sort of want to talk to me or want to ask any more doubts after the session, I'm available for that as well. I'll just paste a link if I can find the actual meet. Yeah, so any questions, anything, just let me know. I'll be most happy to answer you. And I'm just pasting a link to if you want to contact me.
Thank you, Harsh.
Thank you.
I learned a lot. I love to.
1 second, I think I think Raj had a question. He wanted to say something. I
Yeah.
think.
No, I just said thank you as well.
Oh, hey, no problem.
I was saying, I always learn something new when someone is teaching how to use GitHub, because there are a lot of things that you can use, and you always get
Yep.
a
And there's still a lot of things to discover all the time as well.
golden
Like even
nugget.
I don't know
Yeah,
everything, right? So
yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for that.
Hey, no problem.
Well, do you have any questions? All right. Yeah, you can use Harsh LinkedIn, ask whenever you want him. All right. And yeah, thank you again for your time, and see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll stop the recording.